These air fryer turkey meatballs are so delicious, and they are low carb, low fat, and no fillers. Welcome to the Salt and Pepper, where we cook for real life using real food and we keep it real simple. Today we're gonna make air fryer turkey meatballs. Now I have several recipes for air fryer meatballs of different varieties, even a wonderful pan style Asian turkey meatball. However, I wanted to make a meatball that was absolutely delicious, perfectly flavored, and had no fillers, was low carb and low fat. And I did, and it's amazing. So before we jump into what the ingredients are, because as you can see, they're very simple, I am gonna start to preheat my Ninja Foodi pressure cooker and air crisper. You can use any air fryer you want, but you do wanna preheat with your cooking surface inside. So I'm using the air fryer basket for this recipe. You could use a crisping plate. You could use any type of surface that you want, preferably with holes in it, and then preheat with that inside so that that surface gets hot, which will help the meatballs not stick. So we're gonna go ahead and turn them on, and 10 minutes I preheat, and I use the broil, or on European Ninja Foodies, it's called grill. That's the hottest temperature. Whatever air fryer you have, just use your hottest temperature and do it for a full 10 minutes. All right, now I have 1 pound of 97.3 turkey, so it's lean turkey, and I have 1 large egg. I'm just gonna put that in just like that. 1.5 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. Put that in right there. And then my spice blend. Now, these 3 ingredients I think are important. You could leave out the Worcestershire sauce, but I really do think that it really gives a nice balance of flavor. But the seasonings are completely up to you. Like I thought earlier today, oh wow, I bet if I put some barbecue rub and a little bit of liquid smoke in there and then toss them maybe in a low carb barbecue sauce after they were air fried, that would be delicious. So really get creative with your seasonings. The seasonings that I'm using are leaning towards the Italian, seasoning blend that you would use if you were gonna make this into, like a spaghetti and meatballs over zucchini noodles or something like that. So what I have here is 1 teaspoon of fine grind sea salt, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of basil, 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning, and 1 teaspoon of dried parsley leaves. I don't even have any pepper in this one. I don't know why. I didn't test the recipe with pepper, and so I'm leaving it out today too, but you could certainly put in some pepper. You could put in some red pepper flakes if you like. And you can really use any seasonings. And I'm gonna give you a trick in case you're not sure if your seasonings are going to be, perfect, okay? Because you don't wanna commit to an entire bowl or an entire batch of turkey meatballs and then have them kind of fall flat on you. And so the trick is, cook one. So after you mix up your meatball mixture, make 1 turkey meatball. When the air fryer has finished preheating, you just throw it in and cook it for probably about, I would say 5 to 6 minutes. But I'm gonna get into the timing in just a minute. Let me mix this up really well. Now usually, like for ground beef, I'll use my hands, but turkey is very kind of sticky and wet, and it just really makes a mess. And it's soft, so it's easy to use something like this to just mix everything up. All right, so we're almost done with our preheat time, and then I'm gonna spritz the basket with some oil. I'm using avocado oil, but you could use olive oil or whatever oil you wanna use. It's perfectly fine. And we're just gonna spritz a little bit, and then we're gonna get these meatballs in. And after I spritz, I do close the lid, but you don't have to worry about, unless you're gonna take a long time, you don't have to worry about setting it back up. But if you think it's gonna take you a while, then go ahead and go on the air crisp setting, and you wanna take the temperature down to 360 and hit start. Just let it default to whatever it defaults to, because we'll set the time once our meatballs are inside and in the basket. All right, so forming turkey meatballs can be a little challenging. You probably don't want to try to pick them up without fillers. They are very, very wet. So I really encourage you to use some sort of a scoop. I have a Pampered Chef scoop. This is a medium-sized scoop. It's about 2 tablespoons. So you could use a large spoon and use the back of a spoon to kind of scoop and then scoop it into the basket, okay? You don't have to be precise about it being perfectly round, okay? Don't worry about that. The flavor is going to make up for any imperfections in the meatballs, I promise. All right, so let's go ahead and get a few in here. And I just take one scoop just like that. Not worried at all how it is. I do try to make them all the same size though, because the size determines the cook time. Now I might have to do these in batches. I do have a rack that I can use to do a double layer, but I'm not gonna worry about that because this cook time is so incredibly fast that really you can get all of these done in no time at all. All right, so let's go ahead and fill this basket up. And if I went a little bit closer, I probably could have gotten a few more in. I sort of didn't quite go as close as I could have. Let's see, we've got 3, 6, 7, 8. You could probably get 10 in this basket. Now, you know, obviously depends on the kind of air fryer you have, how many meatballs you can get in. You do not want them touching though, because you don't want the turkey to adhere to another meatball and kind of stick together. Number one, that's going to impede the cooking process. And number two, it's just going to have them stick together and then you're not going to have the crispy outside on that one side. All right, let me get this covered while we wait for this to go. But first, let's talk about the time. Take your time down to 7 minutes. My test batches have been between 5 and 7 minutes for this size meatball. If your meatball is larger, so let's say you want a larger, like 3 tablespoon size meatball, that cook time would probably be about 8 to 10 minutes, okay? The bigger the meatball, the longer it takes to cook. If it's smaller, if you want really tiny ones that are just like a teaspoon or 2, then you would decrease your time. Probably about 4 minutes or so, 4 or 5 minutes for a smaller meatball, okay? All right, so let's let this go about 3 minutes, and then I'm gonna flip them, see how they look. We'll get a little internal temperature and make a final decision about our time. All right, so let's go ahead and take a peek. It's been 3 minutes. They're starting to cook. Now, obviously, they are not going to be even, done yet. But at this point, if they don't stick, which these are not, I flip them over. And once you flip them over, if you wanted to, I'm not going to do that because I think it gets a little confusing. I just rather cook in batches. But if you wanted to, you could now put them closer together and get another batch in. You could certainly do that, but I'm gonna just do one at a time because they're so quick. Let me take a temp real quick. Now you don't want to poke and prod all of them because when you do poke in to get a temperature, you are going to have some leaking of the juices. So I just like to go in. Now we are already at 35 to 39-ish. So we only need to get up to about 160 because remember, they're going to continue to cook when they come out. And they will go up fast. They will go from 165 to 180, 190 in a minute. I mean, it's really fast. So I'm gonna take my time. I'm gonna stick with 6 minutes. So when this gets down to the 1 minute mark, I'm gonna check them again and pull them out, let them rest, get the next batch in, and just keep doing that until they're all done. All right, let's go ahead and take a peek here. I like to kind of toss them around a little bit. That'll knock off any extra little pieces that might be on the side there. Okay, let's go ahead and take a temp, see where we are. We can always go that last minute, but we are already up. We're at 157. I'm gonna let it ride out the last minute just to be on the safe side. So between 5 and 7 minutes really has been the timing. And sometimes they're done in 5 and sometimes they take 7. So anyway, we'll just go out the last 30 seconds. You can also stop it at 5 minutes and let them sit in there for a few minutes. The residual heat will keep cooking them. All right, all done. And then I'm gonna leave this bowl over here, but I am gonna set them on the cutting board for right now. Now, it's very important that you don't overcook them. So you really want to, get them out as soon as they reach a safe temperature, because if you overcook them, that's when they dry out. What I found, if I remove them right about 160, 165, they still rise up to about 170, but they're still nice and juicy. So let's go ahead and take a temperature, and we are at 161 to... All right, second batch done. Let's go ahead and put them in here, and then I will taste them. One thing I wanted to say, number one, I got 17 meatballs out of that batch, and of course, your yield will depend on the size that you make. The other thing that I wanted to just quickly go over is that the temperature of your meat mixture will affect your cook time. So let's say you wanted to make up your mix, hours before, and you popped it back in the refrigerator. If you take it directly from the refrigerator and go to cook it, it's going to take longer because it's cold. So if you leave it out, like mine was out probably for, I'm gonna say about 30 minutes, maybe 35 by the time it preheated and everything. So 35 minutes, and so that's the timing for, this size at that temperature, whatever it was up to. I didn't measure it, but whatever it was up to after being out for 35 minutes. So just keep these things in mind, because it doesn't matter. You can cook them from cold. It's not a problem. Just you're going to need to adjust your time up some. So it's going to take another couple minutes, 1 to 2 minutes probably. All right, let's go ahead. I'm just going to dig in with a toothpick here and grab one. But you know what? I'm going to actually cut it open because I want you to see the inside. Because it is really moist, perfectly cooked. You can see that. And they're so delicious. Absolutely perfect. Oh my gosh, I love that. I love when you can use just a few ingredients and it only takes a few minutes and you can have something delicious that's also healthy. Remember, you can change up the seasonings. You can, add sauces. You can do all kinds of things to this basic recipe to make them exactly the way you like them. As always, make it yours, make it delicious, and keep it real.